All right, thank you very much. I hope you're having fun so far. These conversations are super interesting. As I mentioned, my name is Anzar. I am one of the founding faculty members of Habib University. So we've been here 10 years and have created multiple experiences, including the playground. This is something that's pretty close to our heart. And that's a study that we've been doing for many years now in multiple ways, that how do we think about the UX beyond the software and for everything. Just a disclaimer, by the way, you're here at a UX conference. It's possible that certain experiences are not well crafted for you when you go out, and you can make a smirk and say, what a fun UX conference where the UX of this isn't imagined. And that can happen. That can happen primarily because, as I mentioned, it's a very student-led thing. There are many things that we could have done better, but we couldn't or we didn't because we were optimizing on other things. So I apologize for anything that has already happened. While growing up, I never understood the value of using some of these things. It's very easy. We use them every day. I think it's revolutionary. The kind of the design of this ketchup bottle, the inverted design. I remember growing up, we used to smack the hell out of a ketchup bottle to get something out. We don't do that anymore, mostly. Especially if the ammis have kept those old bottles, perhaps it still happens. The coming out of these slices are toaster, indicating that's toasted to the amount you want. The toothpaste that can be pressed by any child and toddler. I have a 4-year-old and who uses the toothpaste without problem. And these noodles that Nahid.pk I took this picture. So these are very local noodles. You put them in the microwave and they just cook themselves. Very good. We have actually optimized for experiences, not just in the software domain. People really think about these experiences in everyday life as well. Now, I am a career academic. My job is really to create certain experiences in the classroom. And one question that constantly popped up was, how do I create these experiences? And how do I take control of some of these experiences such that my students get the best learning experience? And this is interesting, and some numbers were also very important for me. So I looked at some of these numbers. I created that. This is an approximation number. Anyone who has done an undergrad degree would more or less would have spent 25,000 hours in a formal classroom. That's a lot of time. That's years, lots of months. If anyone wants to do that, just Google 25,000 hours in months and you will get a number that's in double digits. I actually took this picture that at the back. I think it's at Yale. It's a latest picture. I just made it black and white just to show you a comparison with the picture that was taken more than 100 years ago. That looks particularly like this. This is a lecture hall at Berkeley. And this doesn't look very different from the picture I was showing earlier. The only differences that have happened in a typical space are the addition of multimedia devices. They existed in different shapes before, but a projector is a special thing that has now become a part of that. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of innovation that keeps on happening in these spaces as well. They have made it easier to bring digital devices to the rooms. Maybe you noticed, or you did not, because it's not the greatest of the UX, there is a tray hidden on the right side of your arm. If you just flip it open, you can take out a tray. This tray, however, is designed to be used for books and registers that you're going to put to take notes. I don't know how many still do that because they have started to use digital devices. So I went to a room. I took a picture of a room at MIT, one of the latest rooms they have. This is from 2021, I guess. There's a lecture that's happening on some form of design. And if you see what's happening is that there are a lot of things which are happening. I just zoomed into one special part. Everyone is on their system. And if you zoom in, you can't zoom in right here, but they are not studying for the course. That happens a lot. In one of my classes, some students were presenting, so I went backstage. A student was playing Temple Run, and I said, "Beta, ye kya?" I said, "That's my highest score, don't disturb." So they must have been playing for a while at that time. So there's a lot that's competing for attention very clearly. And some things start to happen in terms of designing for better classroom experiences. And the first thing they thought, lots of programs, TEAL, there was a program called TEAL, Teaching Enhancement Something. There was some phenomenal work happening at Illinois Urbana-Champaign, one at North Carolina Chapel Hill. And everything that they wanted to do was to bring a lot of technology to the classroom. And what they ended up doing was giving you more devices, fantastic devices, computer aided, lots of screens everywhere. And so all of a sudden, access to digital machines becomes easier. Now you're doing that in 2003, 4, and 5. Now you realize a lot of that stuff doesn't require a laptop. You have your own screens in your hand. But what terrible thing that was happening around that time is universities were pretty excited to talk about innovation in teaching and learning spaces. They were making the work way and way more individual. The ability to work in teams or to work across teams was getting more limited because of that design. And if you look up some of the designs, you'll find, you'll see what I'm talking about. And there is, again, a lot of new things that happen in the architecture of the universities. Libraries have changed, information commons have changed, cafeterias have changed, student lounges have changed, and the external of the universities have changed a lot because they use it for a very interesting purpose: attract students to the university. That's why they want to make it look posh. So every time I try to ask for an innovation center or try to find the most interesting universities, I end up with a lot of external architecture that makes it look very pleasing. You look at it, it's like, wow, cool place, maybe I want to go there because it looks cool. Yeah, it looks cool. If I want to find out what's happening inside in those spaces, I don't find much. So apparently the architects got exhausted when they were designing most of these things. And it's not just this one space, there are lots of interesting spaces. So I started doing a lot of scholarship study at one point. A comprehensive study was done in the UK. This happened in 2019. And a big study happened in terms of an attempt to transform spaces. So some transformation is happening in what they call the innovation spaces. It's very interesting that classrooms are not considered for innovation. They have to make a very special space for that. Innovation will happen here. You come here to become dumber. Whatever those attention means, but spaces have started to look different. Many of them have been renovated, not a typical classroom though, but these innovation spaces and labs. And if one would ask, why haven't a typical classroom changed? There is, by the way, a reason a typical classroom looks the way it does. It emerged out of a need that's no longer relevant. The first typical classrooms, by the way, started appearing in the churches, in the church halls as well. Because the kind of academies we know of, the earlier Greek academies, did not have formal classroom systems the way we are used to right now. So there's a French author, he says something very interesting, Henri Lefebvre. Architects perhaps study his work, the production of space. And he says something very interesting, that if you ask the fundamental question, why does a university structure look the way it does, it has something to do with control and authority. And in some ways, it's the conspiracy of the architect, the manager, and the higher-ups. They want to dictate certain actions. And dictate is, I don't think, a word that suits a university. This is not what you're here to do. So one asks, then what is it that you want spaces to become? There's a very interesting term that comes up, which is called a non-place. These learning spaces or these learning classrooms become non-places. And a non-place is something where you just go to get some actions done. You don't want to go back for other reasons. You don't have a lot of control. And these non-places is something that is becoming a fundamental part of where we exist. You go to the classroom to get the class done, and you want to get the hell out of that place. And that's a very strange thing that we are doing. So another French author, I don't know, it just happened to be French, Marc Auger, he wrote a very nice place, non-lieu. Non-lieu is place. So this place, again, continues to be the place which is controlled by formal rules. That's not how you really encourage thinking. I can create fixed systems to force you to think. I need to give you freedom. So the experience of these spaces should be dictated not by these managers and architects and higher-ups, but somewhere else. And given that the word design is becoming more and more interesting, we wanted to know more. So at Habib, we started a series, quite a lot of them. One of them is called I Learn Best When, where we asked the main stakeholder, one of the main stakeholder students, what happens when you go through these experiences? Perhaps it's too small for you to read, but there were some things that kept on coming. Give me a flexible space. So this is a Habib student. This is not a study elsewhere. Give me a flexible space. Allow me to interact with whiteboard so that the professor isn't the only one who's expressing themselves. I want to express as well. And any classroom that allows that, for example, if a room has writing walls everywhere, they enjoyed that room further because the professor could also use that. A very interesting thing that came up was daylight. There's no daylight here, so you and I can't tell the impact of daylight that's happening. However, most places at Habib have intentional daylight that's there. And whenever interactive screens became a thing that they liked, at the same time, writing walls. If you have walls that serve no purpose, If you can convert them into a writing space, they appreciated that. Right? Interesting. They wanted to enjoy that. And then what doesn't work for you? Noise is no help. You can't use noise as a contributor to great research. They get pretty upset if the audio video systems don't work. Imagine you spend a whole day making a nice presentation and you come up and yellow color is absent because the projector doesn't support that color. Or the audio is coming out of a terrible projector and the sound is terrible and you wanted to curate the whole class experience around that. That happens. And big spaces like this are not good for teaching at all. I can't interact with you. Look at this. This is terrible in terms of teaching. So I would never do that. And any distraction, if I turn this transparent around you, it would become a zoo. And people will come and watch what's happening inside. I might want to convert it into a zoo at some points, but I want control. A similar study started to happen at a few other places as well. But the fundamental question was, we designed these spaces for learning experiences. And what is the user experience when you want to create these learning experiences? What can I put them into? So two stakeholders that we focused on, both the faculty and the students. So there's a study that happened not so long ago in Indiana University that from a professor's perspective, these things started coming up again and again. Give me a lot of space to write. I write as a professor. You might want me to do something else as an administrator, but I still want to write. Give me tech whenever I need it. Give me flexibility, which means I should be able to break the hierarchy in this classroom, take the person from the last seat, put them there, play in groups, play with ideas, have more collaboration. And when they went to the students, something similar started to appear. Let's look at what do the students want. Educate access to power. Everyone is carrying laptops. The laptop carries a charge no longer than 7-8 hours if it's a new one and the best one. Otherwise, I would say an hour, 30 minutes is more realistic for older laptops that we carry. And if we expect laptops to be there, they're using Figma, Mural, Miro, whatever, they need access to power. So in a classroom of 25 students, 10 power slots won't do. You need 25 or more. That's not a part of the design. They're going to sit there for 7 to 8 hours a day. It needs to be comfortable. It really needs to be comfortable. And they need to move. They also need to get up and move. And how do you enable that? Intentionally. And give them a stable internet. It's a terrible internet. They might not play Temple Run, but at the same time, they might not do the interesting things that they want to do in the classroom. And they want to talk. They want to be heard. The modern student very clearly indicates that give me a space and authority to talk as well. So I learned about this very interesting term, golden zone of a classroom. And a golden zone of a classroom is a space where the student and the professor not only have a line of connection, but an ease of access as well. So this is not typical backbenchers that this graph shows in general, but within a space as well. So let's say I'm looking at you constantly. These two edges are shadow zones for me. So when you design for spaces, you really don't want to create shadow zones. But if I'm fixed, that's a problem. If I'm mobile, that's not a problem. The golden zone can keep moving, and people are going to experience multiple golden zones. So we, as architect, if anyone's an architect, not one, what you design for is increasing those particular golden zones. So listen to the user. So what's in the hand of the architect then? You can do other things that the user perhaps would not talk about. For example, giving a character to a space, taking inspiration from nature, for example. Maybe just like if we have 3 cafeterias at Habib, all look different. Why do classrooms need to look the same? They can have a character, they can carry a theme. Why not? What's stopping us from doing that? Intentional use of daylight and as much distance as you can reduce from informal learning spaces. So when you exit a classroom, where are you? What's in your vicinity? And within your vicinity, are there informal learning spaces that allow you to learn? So these are some fundamental things that kept coming again and again. And we practiced with something like that at Habib University. This space is on the 2nd floor. If you just climb the stairs and turn right, you'd see it. There's some displays there today. It's a very flexible space. It looks different right now. It's called the playground. And the idea of the playground, so Gulrez talked about it, we co-founded that space, and the idea was many things. There are no physical walls separating you. We use these movable boards to separate wherever you want to create a separation. The ethos is that you work in groups. It's accommodating movement and noise. It's accommodating a few other things. Yeah, give students an ability to express in multiple mediums, not just the written form and the visual form. And perhaps they want to create stuff as well. We also respected the idea of active and passive spaces. When you don't want to be in there and intentionally want to be in a shadow, in terms of reflection, are we giving you those spaces at all? So this is something that was very important and finally took away the fixed stage. The professor as the artist, the sage on the stage. kill that. And what we become now? Guide on the side. Very important. We're no longer carrying that information that is typical to a typical understanding. A professor knows everything. We honestly don't. And so this also gave birth to another space. So this is the fourth floor. If you press the elevator, fourth button, you'll go up there. Some of these ideas were maintained. Flexibility, lots of mobility. These each table represent an individual entity that can be folded, moved around. If you don't need them, you connect them in multiple shapes. You can work in teams of pairs, squares, and multiple things can happen. So here are some examples. We got a few things wrong, but we're learning. Some informal learning spaces were introduced. For example, these 360-degree moving boards. If you want to create storyboards, you can do that. Lots of informal learning spaces outside. Lots of daylight that comes in. And one of my favorite spaces, what we call the persona of the city, continues to remind me, where am I? Who am I doing it for? I come from there. I'm going to go back there. It might look fancy to be, but do not forget, we are here. This is our reality. And we continue to create for these systems. And this essentially becomes the very heart of this conversation. And for us, what becomes very, very important are a series of questions. Anyone in the decision-making position, who are we designing a modern classroom for? What's informing our design choice? If it's your rank, authority, power, and experience, leave the place. Don't do that. Don't tell us what to do just because you have the time, experience, authority, intellect. That doesn't matter. And what experiences are we trying to facilitate? Where are we going with everything that we have created? And how do we measure impact? Now that's interesting. Don't look at grades. That's a very poor way of looking at impact. What you're looking for are very different things. You're looking at social interactions. How much have they increased? If you think about a classroom right now, I doubt you'll remember a desk or a table or a chair. You'll remember experiences. Something would have happened in the classroom. I think about my undergrad, I think about the canteen because the best experience were happening at the cafeteria, not in my classroom. I can't think of them at all. So this is very intentional. We think about them, and the whole case is that intentional design of these spaces have the ability to radically transform the way we work together across disciplines, across places. And if that informed design is at the very heart of your decision making, you won't go wrong. You'll iterate, you'll make these changes, and hopefully a better experience for our student community as well. Thank you.